Hi there, dear friends. Kalidas here to offer some astrological insights on May 14th, 2020. Last time we spoke about the shadow planets, Rahu and Ketu, and how they correspond to the inner breath, the upward current of our inhalation being Rahu, and the exhalation, downward current, being Ketu. And how Rahu relates to our future projections of mind, whereas Ketu relates to our memories of the past. So there's one more aspect to Rahu and Ketu, and that is their presence in your horoscope or in anyone's horoscope. They tell us a lot. Ketu tells us where the person has been. And at birth, where have they been? In mother's womb? But where besides that? They're coming from somewhere. And Ketu is a very good planet to consult in the chart about what they're up to in previous lifetime. What is familiar to them? What is instinctual for them? And then the other part, the counterpart Rahu, that will be the part that will be expansive and growthful for that person, a little less stable, less instinctual. What you often find in married couples, especially those on a spiritual path of some type, is that their Rahu and their Ketu are switched, meaning they're opposite. And what that means is what is instinctual for one, the other partner is learning. And what is instinctual for that partner, the other one is learning. And so if we don't annoy each other too much, we can learn a lot from each other. And so if your partner is opposite than you, it's probably because what's instinctual for them, you are learning, and what's instinctual for you, they are learning. So Rahu in the chart will always point us towards the expansive direction, and Ketu will always show the familiar, instinctual direction from the past. And the goal is never to do a whole lot more of what we've already done. The goal is to expand into new territories. God is a boundless being and made us in His image. And He will certainly show us in life where our boundaries lie so that we can have the opportunity to remove those boundaries and become more expanded in our consciousness like He is, like we are in our true nature as one with Him. Why do I speak about Rahu and Ketu today? It's because I'm going to be looking more into the USA chart. And currently the planet Saturn and Jupiter are right on the Ketu in the United States chart. The Ketu in the United States chart is in the second house in Capricorn. What does this say? Well, the second house is kind of that place that opens up when the baby is born and starts to breathe. And when they begin to breathe, they realize, oh, it's up to me to stay alive now. I'm no longer in mother's womb. In fact, a cord has been cut and I feel separated from her. In fact, now I'm hungry and I need to eat. And needs begin to appear. And fears and insecurities begin to appear. Why? Because the baby slowly realizes the mother is not me. The mother is separate from me. The mother can go away. And that creates a vast insecurity in everyone's heart. And at about age 9 or 10, the world will start crowding around us and say, where are you going to find security? What do you want to be when you grow up, little Johnny? And they'll fill his mind with thoughts of, what do you want to be in the sense of how will you create security? What will be your money-making method? And that, a yogi can see, is temporary. A person who's seeking only material wealth will inevitably meet with sorrow because that material wealth is absolutely temporary. So what is our security in this material world? That's what the second house represents. What is it that we believe will bring us security in this material world? And the USA was born, in a sense, on July 4th, 1776, with Ketu in that second house of security. So we're talking about a group of individuals who has the karma to attract prosperity. And certainly the United States is a prosperous country. We have a lot of material securities. But remember, I said in the beginning, the goal for our growth in this world is never to do a whole lot more of what we've already done, The goal is to go actually in the opposite direction, a little bit more towards simplicity, spirituality, learning that security lies in things other than material, temporary satisfaction and money. And so the United States Rahu is in the 8th house of death, rebirth, and transformation. And that Rahu is currently dominating the United States chart because in 2016, the United States entered into their 18-year Rahu Mahadasha. What does that mean? It means that in the next 18 years, there's going to be an immense amount of transformation in our country. And it's starting now with Saturn in Capricorn on the Ketu, and he's going to block what we're normally used to. What's he going to block? Our prosperity. And that might feel like a threat to our security. But let's listen to this great master Yogananda, who envisioned this time and incarnated, in fact, to give us the tools we needed to face exactly this very transformation we're entering into. Here's what he has to offer. He says, "Accuse no one, not even yourself. Blame and accusation won't erase what has been done. It will affirm, rather, your dependency on circumstances over which truly you no longer have control." Sound familiar? That's where we're at. And he says, accuse no one. Remember, we're kind of being coached by many different sources to put blame on externals for this crisis that we're in. Yogananda says, accuse no one, not even yourself. Blame and accusation won't erase what has been done. It will affirm rather your dependency on circumstances over which truly you no longer have control. So what is his solution? Seek God in inner silence and reconcile yourself to what is and to what needs to be done about it. And remember, that just means today. You can reshape every karma, he says, provided that from today onward you live by soul consciousness. Soul consciousness would be, I came here on a temporary journey in this world to learn something from this school of life, and let me remain open to my own lessons rather than try my very best to point out where other people's lie, because you'll find you're quite powerless in that quest, whereas you gain power from working on yourself. So what is your second house in your chart? We'd have to look at it to see. But what's very interesting is you take the ruler of the second house in any individual's chart and locate it, and you'll form a connection between what they believe is material security. And it's very interesting for devotees of God and seeking God. You often see that second planet, the second house planet, which represents our security in this material world, that will have traveled in their chart into the 9th house of spiritual grace and God-seeking. And this is a very strong sign that this person has long ago let go of the idea that security can be found in anything temporary. It takes reflection and many experiments, but eventually it's a hard-won battle. Everything ends except God's joy. As Sri Yukteswar, the great astrologer and wisdom master, said to Yogananda, he said, "You will tire of everything else except for God's joy." Over the years, he spoke to Yogananda, he said, God will beguile you with an infinite ingenuity, meaning he's endless in the way he can entertain us for all eternity. It's such a security so far beyond what money can offer. And the United States is going to learn this, and that is why Saturn at this time is on Ketu, in their second house, in the United States' second house. It's going to remind us that material security is not found in money. And if we're going to cling to that idea, then money will probably be taken away or transformed in some way. And I think very strongly that it will be part of our transformation, as a new money system will begin. Why do I think that? Well, I've done some research on this Saturn in Capricorn. It happens every 28 and a half years. So that's how long it takes Saturn to circle around the sun. And so he enters into this sign of Capricorn that often, about 28 and a half years, and he will spend 2.5 to 3 years in that sign of Capricorn. So I got to thinking, well, here we are, that's what's happening now, and we're going through a world crisis. So why not look back into what would the year be? It would be 1991 and 1992. And guess what was going on? The Rodney King riots. There was a massive awakening of inequality and people rising up against the government at that time because of something that had happened. An African-American man was badly beaten by two police officers. And this caused a great anger in the people, and in Los Angeles there were these riots. And this happened when Saturn was in Capricorn, just about 28 and a half years ago. So what else happened? We go back another 29 and a half, or 28 and a half to 29 years, we end up at 1963 and 1964. And in 1963, our great President John F. Kennedy was assassinated on live television. And following that, in the year after, we had these Civil Rights Act movement happened, and there was no longer segregation between blacks and whites. There was an equality rule created. So you see a great change in government, and it's Saturn in Capricorn is sort of this time in which the people rise up and say, look, things aren't being done right and we need a change. And Saturn being the bottom constellation in the human spine, in the constellations which I reviewed in another class, which you can see, planets and the chakras, I believe it was. Well, the bottom constellation is Capricorn, and it symbolizes the ending of a cycle and the renewal of a new cycle. And so when Saturn goes through Capricorn, he's ending a cycle and beginning a new one. And that's where we are now. And in 1963 and 1964, there was also some rioting happening. So we see this riot, the people rioting. This seems to be a theme of Saturn in Capricorn. Well, it might happen again. Maybe it already is, and we just don't know about it. I don't know what's going on, nor do I seek really to know, because it seems like a time in which God is telling humanity very clearly, trust me, you're not meant to know. There's too many loose ends here. Don't overcomplicate your mind by trying to know. Instead, try to cultivate faith each day, each moment in that power. That's what Yogananda was describing in the reading that I offered. So also in 1964, we had riots in East Pakistan, in which many Bengali Hindus had their lives taken. And I'm sure that's unforgettable to the Indian culture and the Eastern cultures. I know very little about that, but I do know something of the civil rights movement, which happened in the same year. So you see, this is all happening during Saturn in Capricorn. And that's where we are now. One difference now, two differences. One, we've risen in consciousness. We're in Dwapara rising. And what does that mean? I explained it in another class, but just a brief recap is the yugas are the ages of mankind, and they are either evolving or devolving. And right now we are in an evolving age, an age of energy. One in which Yogananda said was one of the most insecure ages on the planet, because mankind will discover the finer forces, yet his morality has not yet caught up with that evolution of technology. Makes sense, right? That's where we're at. Technology could destroy the world if we don't increase our own spiritual understanding, our unity, our need for love. So that would be 1964, another Saturn in Capricorn cycle. Oh, and I said there were two reasons. One was that we're in an ascending yuga, and the other is that Jupiter is with Saturn in Capricorn. And this brings virtue. It creates a battle, actually, because Jupiter is limited in Capricorn and yet is the finer force of virtue, the stronger force of virtue, of Dharma. So there's something different about this Saturn in Capricorn than there was about the previous ones, which I'm going to go even further into the past now, one more time, all the way back to the year 1934. Another time in which Saturn was in Capricorn. What was going on then? There was something called the unrest protest riots, and there was an event known as Bloody Thursday in which police killed protesters who were rioting against, it was a big strike, July 5th, 1934, and it had to do with the union and the workers and the government and them getting their needs met. But again, you see the people rising up saying this government has become impure and is not treating the people right, and we are standing up. So those are three. And then also what happened in 1934? Bonnie and Clyde were finally taken down. John Dillinger, one of the greatest mobsters who was actually almost successful in taking over a large portion of the planet, because of his control of the media, he had convinced the people that he was like Robin Hood, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. But this man was a great criminal, history tells us, and he was finally caught and executed in this year. So Saturn in Capricorn seems to be a time in which rule and law get really restructured and purified. If there's anything off, the people are going to notice. This seems to be the theme. If you followed me through those years, those are all the cycles of Saturn going through Capricorn. And here we are again, and there's some definitely a sea of differing information out there that we need to be patient and not get too wrapped up in, especially as yogis who want to live in freedom. Instead, we would do well to follow the example of that great master Yogananda who spoke of blame and accusation won't erase what has been done. It will affirm rather your dependency on circumstances over which truly you no longer have control. Instead, seek God in the inner silence and reconcile yourself to what is and to what needs to be done about it. You can reshape every karma, provided that from today onward you live by soul consciousness. So from today onward, this is also a reference kind of to the present moment, right here, right now. This is where we can live by soul consciousness. It's not going to be done by dwelling in the future on fears and imaginations about what might happen. We're wasting time and energy when we do that, and it's called Rahu. Rahu is that part of the mind who likes to play with the future. But it's never correct. Have you noticed you're not a psychic? I've noticed I'm not a psychic. So every time I've ever looked at the future, I've been wrong about what it was going to be. But we can affirm things about the future. We can get our energy right so that we travel into the next things to come with the right energy. That can change the future in a positive way. And that's why we've come here and to this planet to become transformed. And that is what the United States is going through now. Their second house of security is threatened, and that is what they're used to, material security. That's where Ketu is in the United States chart, the planet of our past familiarity. Well, United States is in its Rahu Dasha, which is opposite Ketu in the house of transformation. And Saturn is right on top of the Ketu, blocking our familiar, leisurely, overly prosperous culture and reminding us of what real prosperity is. And it's going to take time, isn't it? There's no one human who can just stand up and tell us all what to do. It's an each individual journey, and I'm on it, you're on it, and we're strengthening each other by reminding each other that we're on this path towards self-transformation. And what did Yogananda say in this beautiful book, Conversations with Yogananda? This is a book about many of his prophecies and different subjects he goes in great detail of. He speaks about the future, and he speaks about the need for world brotherhood colonies where we can learn to live simply with higher mindedness. He called it higher thinking, simple living. And that would demonstrate to the world that mankind can achieve the greatest happiness by living in this way. Simple living and higher thinking. And that is what the United States will become. Yogananda predicted that after the cycle that comes, that will involve much change and uncertain transformation, in the end, mankind would be twice as spiritual and half as wealthy. So what is he advising us? To live simply, to learn to be content with this present moment. He also advised practical things like pool your resources with your friends and buy land in the country and grow your own food. Live simply and learn to think in a higher way. Develop yogic wisdom, the wisdom that God is within you and can be contacted for guidance in any given moment, so long as our mind can calm down and be here in the present moment, where alone God's voice can be heard. So we spend so much time projecting into the future and reflecting on our past, which aren't bad things, it's just that they're out of control and they dominate our minds. Whereas the mind functions best when it's present, calm, and right here, right now, influenced by our natural state of joyful kindness. So the United States doesn't reflect that at this time, but it's very likely that it will become a nation that reflects more of the virtues of the East, the natural kindness, the recognition of unity, the permission to be who you are without being asked to change. I mean, what I mean is the religious respect for each individual's approach to God, the realization that human beings at this time in history are going to learn that religion is individual. It's not corporate or being part of a church so much as it is your personal relationship with the Heavenly Father, with the Divine Mother. Nothing will bring you greater security than developing that. And the United States is used to security on the material plane. But when that gets taken away, we're going to go through a great transformation in which we recognize our need for God again. One nation, under God, indivisible. That means indivisible. That means we are one. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, the third house of the United States chart has the moon in Aquarius. The third house is a house of our free will, of freedom. The moon of the United States is in Aquarius in the third house, and we are a free country and shall remain so. But we've become bound by material things as our security, and those things end, so we become disillusioned and unhappy with life. And this is a very unhappy culture. A free culture? No longer. No, we are bound to material things. We're bound to the illusion that infinite bliss can come from some type amount of money in your bank, another human being marrying you, having a family with a big house. All of these things are temporary and can never bring eternal bliss. So this nation, under God, has been living a myth, and now is the time in which it's going to transform greatly. That's what the stars say. That's what the United States chart is in the middle of, a great transformation in which we are going to learn to live simply with higher ideals, with recognition of world unity, and a great, great mission to unite the East and its higher wisdom of spiritual principles with the West and its amazing material, technology, and efficiency. It should be a very exciting time to be alive. We have come to watch a great battle take place, and it's not a battle in which we ourselves have to pick up clubs or guns. Our battle is to raise our energy into the higher centers and perceive God in each moment, because God is our security. He knows what we should do in each given moment to achieve prosperity, freedom, and success. And as often as we think we know, He'll let us wander. As often as our Rahu looks into the future and thinks it knows what's going to happen, He'll let us wander in response to that. But when we get real serious, it's because we've suffered enough and we're tired of that cycle of disillusionment, and we're ready again to reclaim our birthright. Because you want eternal happiness, because that's what you're made of. You came from bliss, and you have lost sight of it. And the reason that we're looking for joy in this world and great experiences is because we're all trying to remember what we're made of. But that can be found within you, in the inner science of yoga, by raising your energy and dedicating your life to becoming more aware of the God within you. And this chakra here is the sun. This is the guiding light of the solar system. And here up in the sky, the sun moves through the universe, guiding all our rotating planets towards this great galactic center of cosmic awareness. And we're moving towards it right now. It takes many thousands of years, but as we get closer, mankind becomes more enlightened. And so the sun guides the solar system towards this great galactic center. But what about within us? Our guide is the sun. And when we lift our heart, our trust, our love, our very sense of self, of our desire for bliss, we lift that to the sun and we say, guide me. It will surely do so, at least for that moment. And the goal is not to forget. The goal is to remember every moment so that we're not led astray by the dark force, which God did permit to enter creation and have a say in it. And if we do not live spiritually and for the light, we will be easily deceived by the darkness. If we believe that our material security is everything and that's the end-all of life, the whole purpose of it, then we'll be easily deceived by the dark force of selfishness and separation. But if we look beyond this world, as Yogananda said, human beings' values are profoundly changed when they learn that their reality lies not in this world, but beyond it, in God, in our relationship with Him as we are guided by Him through this world. How can you be guided by Him? Every scripture will tell you God is love. Try to think of someone you love or a situation that makes you happy or recall some beautiful experience or do something to open your own heart and try to recognize God is love. Because if you turn on love like a light switch in your own heart, you'll see that you can find solutions to whatever's happening today. Whereas if you stay in a state of attachment and selfish focus, you'll only see the problem. And those are words from Yogananda and Swami Kriyananda. If you're more interested in finding more about these great gurus, I would highly recommend this book, Autobiography of a Yogi. Great book, so entertaining and educational. And then also this Conversations with Yogananda. If you'd like to read more about what a great master says about our impending future, where we're traveling, what we're headed into, Yogananda speaks many times in this of the future of humanity and other fascinating subjects. So read up and tune in with these great masters, and I will see you again on Monday. I'm very happy to be sharing these things. I hope you find them helpful. And I do have a YouTube website now where these videos are kept and can be viewed again. So you can check that out. And please, if you have any questions or inquiries, don't be shy. You can reach me at astrologywithkalidas@gmail.com. So have a great day, and it's been a great joy to be with you. Om.